Some people can just pop down into a deep squat, while others have to work pretty hard for it. Why is that? Let's dive into the necessary mobility needed to properly sit into a deep primal style squat.
First off, go ahead and test your deep squat position. Then get a snapshot of where you are and see if any of these exercises improve it. Notice how the squat requires tons of hip flexion, or the ability to bring your knees towards your chest.
An easy way to work on this is to simply lie on your back and actively pull your knee towards your chest. How high can you get your knee? Does it look like the correct angle of a squat? To add more resistance, we can add in a band to work our hip flexors at a higher intensity. Do a couple sets of 10 to 15 reps. This is a nice position to spend some time in daily, whether you're on your back or your knees. But more commonly, hip flexion is the outcome of good hip rotation. These are the muscles that act on the hip joint and allow it to move freely. There's one position that we find to be the best starting point for working on hip rotation: the 4 position, or 90-90. Just spending time in this position, much like the squat, will have great natural mobility effects on your body. If you find it really challenging to even get into, place a pillow under your front hip. Interesting to note, my 9-month-old sons spend tons of time in 90-90. It's their bridge between sitting and getting to their tummies. The movements we learn as we develop are usually really good for us to spend time in. To be able to squat deep, you want to have control of both inward and outward rotation of your leg. The better your mobility is here, the easier your hip will go into deep flexion. And what might become obvious as soon as you sit down into 90-90 is your back hip just feels weird. Internal rotation of the hip is less common in our day-to-day lives and often can be lost to years of sitting. And a lack of internal rotation can often be linked to pinching in the hip and general discomfort. One of my favorite ways to start working on this is to control yourself down into the position. Start on your knees with your hips extended and slowly lower your hips towards the floor. Think about driving the back knee into the ground to control your body. Do this around 5 to 10 times and eventually press yourself back up with your knees and hips. Guys, having a dialed-in morning routine can help you set the tone for your day. What I've found to be helpful is waiting on that beloved cup of coffee and first getting hydrated. I fill up my water bottle with high-quality water and I mix in LMNT electrolytes. LMNT has been my favorite electrolyte for years now because of the simplicity. No sugar, no unnatural ingredients. Did you know that there's growing research revealing that optimal health occurs at sodium levels 2 to 3 times higher than government recommendations? Yes, we need more salt. It's important to not only drink high quality water, but to take in sodium, magnesium, and potassium. If you click on our link below, then you can get a free sample pack so you can try out all the LMNT flavors with the purchase of an electrolyte drink mix. No questions asked refund if you don't like it. Thank you, LMNT, for sponsoring this video. To work some external rotation strength, we can use a basic pigeon press. Now we'll shift focus to the front leg. Use your hands to guide your chest downward. Remember to use a pillow if needed. Push the chest towards the calf, then press yourself back up. Repeat this 5 to 10 times and you should feel a nice stretch on the outside of the hip where the glutes and deep rotators are.
So after doing all that hip rotation, test your squat again. See if it feels more comfortable. In How Squats Heal the Body, we talk about how the ankles can be a big limiting factor in being able to squat deep. First, start with lifestyle. Get yourself barefoot more often or a pair of minimalist shoes. So just by walking around and doing your workouts, you'll get yourself in more dorsiflexion naturally.
To work on the ankles directly, we'll need to do some lower leg work. Basically, the toes need to be worked back towards the shin. And there's many forms of stretching that can do this. An easy one is to stand on something that drops your heels below your toes. Now push your chest and torso forward. And like most mobility efforts, strength helps speed along the process. I've seen a lot of success with turning this stretched calf position into full range calf raises. Now we use the calf to drive the heel up. And now we control the heel down to a stretch position. Do this for around 8 to 10 repetitions on both legs. It's a good idea to combine this with other low-intensity calf stretching like a downward-facing dog position. And we can combine this with strengthening the front of the joint. Toe raises are simple. Rest your hips and back against the wall with your feet out in front of you. Lift the toes and feel the front of your shins turn on. Find a distance and level where you can do around 15 to 20 repetitions.
Now that you've worked on your ankles, test your squat again, see if it feels any better. Sometimes it takes more than just stretching to get into a deeper position. Sometimes it takes muscle activation to pull yourself into a deeper squat. And you can start to learn this coordination by using some assistance.
First, let's start with lifting the heels. Step on something slanted that puts your heels higher than your toes. Try squatting down, and if this dramatically improves your position, like you couldn't squat down and now you can, then the ankles are a really good place to put your focus. Let's also explore using our hands for assistance. This will take some weight away from our legs and help pull us into position. If this helps you a lot, then it could be a combination of everything, and simply spending more time with your hands on something will help you gain necessary strength and mobility. Another drill to work on the ability to pull yourself into the position is to sit on something low. Now push your knees forward by pulling through the ankles. Hold for a second and then sit back. This helps work the shin muscles that can help stabilize your deep squat position. When this becomes easy, you can push yourself forward from the ground, using your hands for assistance and eventually no hands. Once again, holding for a moment in the squat position, then releasing back to seated.
The interesting thing about the knees is they just have to tolerate fully bending. An easy way to work on this is practice sitting on your heels and becoming comfortable with getting this full compression. To take this one step further, put your foot up on a box, and now you can practice the actual squatting version of compressing the knee.
Most pain in the knees during deep squats is the result of lack of use or going too intense too quickly. The best way to build up resiliency in your knees is to find the variation that your knees can tolerate. For most people, elevating the heels and using some hand assistance will automatically make the knees feel better. Consider using a slant board so we can strengthen the quad's ability, which will protect the knee over time. In How Squats Heal the Body, we talked about how rounding the back in a deep squat position is actually quite natural. But if it feels awkward and uncomfortable, then we understand that you'd probably like to improve that. The good news is all the material that we just discussed applies here. The more open your ankles and hips, the easier it is to straighten your spine. Another drill that you can work on is to hold onto a weight in your bottom position. You can use the tension through your hands to open your chest and straighten your spine. Now you can work on lessening your grip on the object, but keeping that spine straight. This is actually a really good way to work on your upper back mobility. Working on your squat will bring some great mobility benefits, but it's good to keep in mind that there's no perfect squat. Maybe you have some past injuries, or maybe your body dimensions just aren't set up to give you that perfect, pretty deep squat position. I have one ankle with significantly less dorsiflexion than the other. This sometimes makes my squat not as comfortable as I'd like it, but I use a heel lift frequently. I use the horse stance, which we just made a video on, to work on hip mobility with less demands on the ankle. I use toe squats, and I constantly work on improving my ankle flexion. Find what your body likes and work with that. We just dropped a program this year called Master Mobility, where we use things like the squat, hang, horse stance to open up the hips and the lower body. We combine sessions that are more focused on potent stretching with everyday tasks like squat and hang. We find most people would like to become more flexible, but they just lack a plan to get there. This program makes it easy with an app you can use on your phone and week-to-week updates in your programming. We even have a free version. First link in description. As always,